So, gentlemen, Joyland premiered last night. It was incredible. I was so excited about it. And tell me a little bit about this first episode.
Well, this kicks off the story about Brooks at 1960s, beginning in 1964, July 1964, as two of our main characters try to bring a basketball franchise to Brooklyn, including Reverend Julian Bass, played by Jameel Dobson, and they struggle with the class and the social justice issues and the women's rights issues, but it's all about people, as you know from having watched it, just ordinary people
Yes,
swept up in
exactly.
it. Yes, and we
Yeah.
had more than 500 views already, and I've gotten very good comments. And what was so heartening is that as you know, we tried something different. We tried to produce a television show on Zoom, and we tried to expand it as much as we can. There's our confines. Ultimately, we wanted to convey the story through wonderful acting and the script and the direction to show what the story would look like. And please, what we'd like is a traditional TV run. So we're trying to, turn it upside down how you develop a television series. You're a Trekkie, so Kobayashi Maru, right?
Right,
You guys see,
exactly.
Sammy, of course, yeah, Kobayashi Maru. Many people go, what? Kobayashi, that's all I need to say. So that's what we try to do. And Jamil, what was it like? I mean, how'd you feel?
Uh, in creating the piece, it
Yes.
was, definitely a different experience. It's not, of course, your traditional television, experience where you go through, your pilot season or what have you. But it's funny, I was telling a friend of mine, or a friend of mine said, this may be the new norm in terms of developing television, because instead of having this expensive route where you have to really audition tons of actors, maybe fly them in, all this stuff, you can do a lot of things just through Zoom. And so that was a really interesting experience. And the actual making of it was great because we were able to rehearse. A lot of us actors, we come from the theater community, so it was great to have that rehearsal experience and at the same time get to work in this new medium. So it was really interesting. I was afraid that I would lose some of the intimacy because we're not in the same room, obviously. Um, and it was also hard to look directly into the camera as opposed to, your fellow act. That was really, really weird, really, really weird. But, you know, the one thing I can say about artists, especially during this time, is we are malleable and we are very versatile and we just make it work. And so that's what we did. We made it work.
Yes.
It was very exciting to see it come online last night and to see it all come together, to hear the words we've written acted out. It's a difficult process because it's hard to replicate action. We chose to do that with a narrator and stage directions, and hopefully people kind of let their mind loose a little bit and get into it. Like any pilot, you're introducing numerous characters, you're establishing different storylines that you're going to follow through and will grow and come together. But I think I was very happy with with how it looked last night.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
it's
it
just
was
incredible what our technical producer, Paul Litwack, who's just a genius. I mean, the stuff that he was able to do and just piece together, we were like, really? And also the process for episode 102 will be a lot easier. You'll be very glad to hear, Jamil. Very easier, because we all learned. And so we researched, I'll tell you how the sausage is made. So we researched, or really mainly Russell and Paul, did a lot of the research of the photos. And then we sent it to the cast, and then the cast had to do the virtual backgrounds. So so that's something we all had to learn, how to do that, and for the actors, most importantly, how to act within that and then change the scenes while reading the script.
Mhm.
It's a lot of skills that we ask, and our cast is so remarkable and so gifted, but just so dedicated, which is, as writers, when you see that, it just touches you so much. But that's again a whole a new way of doing. So episode 2, we kind of will have a better idea. Plus, a lot of the photos we found we could use for episode 102. It's the same. I know so many of the sets will remain. There'll be some different ones, but it's and also I think what we learned, and Russ, correct me, our great fear doing it on Zoom is that people would be confused by the story. So what we did a lot of narration. So we said interior Jamal, Julian's office, church, so people would know that, so they wouldn't. Where are we? And I think going forward in episode 102, we're only going to do that once. So once we have the establishing shot of church office, interior Julian's office, we're not going to say that again. So I think we're a little more confident that people could follow it because it's also the viewer. Sammy, you're a viewer, so you had to get used to different things as well, right?
Yeah, but actually, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I liked it because sometimes, when you're doing something and watching, you have something else going on. And you're like, where'd you go? Where'd you go? I like that you had, Julian's office interior there. It really made it more personalized, I think. I really enjoyed that part. I like the part in the very beginning where you had the first part of it and then the two people talking. Kind of reminded me of the news when you have the two talking heads going on. I really like that part. Which is almost like watching a debate. I really liked it.
And Michelle Fahrenheit, who plays Deb, is based in London.
Wow.
Yes. So that's that's a general American accent, as she told us all.
Phenomenal. Better than I
Yes.
could do a British accent, I'll
Yes.
say that much.
It's amazing. The Brits can do American accents better than American actors. And I asked an actor once, why is that? And he said, don't you realize we grow up hearing your product. You don't grow up hearing ours. So
Right.
we're used to your accents. It's your culture dominates the world with television and movies, but you're not being besieged by British programming. I said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But Deb is like, bam. She said, oh, do you want Brooklyn? Do you want a little Brooklyn? Do you want regular American? It's like, really?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
That takes talent, though. That's pretty amazing she was able to pull that off. I never would have guessed she was from London, though.
No,
Yeah, some
no,
people are
and
so good at it, though.
it's amazing. And everything. And now, so episode 102, we've set up the end of episode 101. We see, Marty trying to get, money for his franchise. Julian struggling with trying to grow the church congregation and being kind of hemmed in. I mean, that's, we want to show, we didn't want to be cliched. We wanted to show other aspects of the 60s. And for Julian, it's trying, as you're going to see in episode 102, it's as much about the social, not as much, but there's the social justice, but there's also being accepted by the establishment who is going to say, who are you? And that's a lot of the same with Marty in episode 101 with Ken Lapidus is, who are you? Really? Yeah, what are you? Are you kidding me? And that's a lot of, the little guys and the little girls fighting back. And of course, Red being beaten up, at the end. Yeah, so that's going to set in motion a lot of stuff, a lot more action in episode 102, which God bless Damone Seraphin, our director, to figure out how to do that.
Oh, you haven't even filmed. Oh, you film it. Did you film it the night of, or?
No, we're gonna start rehearsals. Maybe the second week of April. I'm not exactly sure when, but then the end of April, like pretty much like April 20th, something, whatever corresponds to this, the same thing. Episode 102.
Wow, that's impressive. That's really impressive the way you do that. I really like it, and I think Jamil was right. This is going to be a great, great way to do television for the future because you can get people from all over to do it, and I think that's going to be really helpful. I think maybe for the entertainment industry, this pandemic could almost be a blessing in disguise for people like you that had this dream, and now you took it off, and look at you.
Right. Well, they'll hear different voices. I mean, not just us, but people all over who are not going to spend $2 billion developing a pilot. So you have people outside the existing establishment, which supposedly that's what the entertainment business wants to to do. I'm not sure I entirely believe that, but
Mhm.
really, I'm a little skeptical about those kind of promises. They kind of get lost. They keep getting lost. They keep making them, but people with different perspectives who are not all, aligned with Steven Spielberg and Angelina Jolie. There's a lot of other of us.
Mhm.
We're not part of the elite, and I think that's very important to see other parts of America and the world, which doesn't often. I get crazy when what was the Netflix series? I'm going to just rant and rave a little bit. Sammy, you'll indulge me. All too often, we just see the world through the wealthier people and the elites. And the Netflix series with Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin, what was it called?
Oh, the
Oh,
Kaminsky method.
Yes.
yes.
Now, I liked in the beginning, but I got tired of them whining in their Rolls Royce.
Hmm.
I know I have a lot of sympathy. Oh my God, you got to bring into the shop. What are you going to do? Now, if you have two old guys, struggling with issues, why can't they be blue collar workers?
That's true. Exactly.
I
Yes.
mean, how many working class families do you see on television?
Not too many, to be
Really?
honest with you.
No, you really don't. You just see upper middle class to upper class, or the actors, the characters are so over the top that it's like, these are, I mean, what we're trying to do is just have regular people.
I
And
like that. Yes. I think
yes,
that makes it so much better. It kind of almost brings it's almost like a throwback to the 90s television where we did have the middle class people working. I'm showing my age here, but like the Connors and Roseanne
Oh,
and Boy Meets World, shows like that. It was like the
yeah.
typical family that was struggling a little bit. I'm
Mhm.
assuming you're around my age, but
No, I think that it's coming around again. I mean, I even hear they're doing, the Wonder Years reboot.
I
So
saw that, yes.
that's definitely it's going back to that. That's one of those things where we talk about TV trends that are happening now, it's either going to be very indulgent, where it's all about like living this Kardashian bling empire kind of lifestyle, or it's going to be really delving into the worlds and societies that we live in, like a This Is Us, so to speak, where we really dive deeper into these worlds. Because I think a lot of us, particularly bringing it back to this project, where we think, oh yeah, that was so long in the past or that happened. But really, there are so many scenes within this, even first episode, that if you close your eyes, you would know what time period it in. And it could be 1964 or 2021. I mean, it opens up with the shooting of an unarmed Black man. Hello. Like this is stuff that we still are going through, sadly enough, to this day. And so that's why this show is really important, why I'm happy to be a part of it, because if you don't know about your past, you're doomed to repeat it.
And it's a period piece, and I think there's a trend and an acceptance of period pieces. Our period is almost 60 years ago, but as Jamil said, the relevancy is right in your face. But it is a different world, so it will give us an opportunity to showcase different clothing styles, different music, all the elements that made that period so vibrant. From a producer standpoint, going back to talking about the process, I mean, one of the things that you want is to have as many assets available going into a show. We were fortunate to have an amazing cast, our script. Um, the one thing we probably would have liked to have would have been the luxury of more time. But by the same token, we put our feet to the fire by putting a stake in the ground and saying we were going to have this on the air as a broadcast network would on March 22nd, and it was difficult because we had these actors who congregated from all over the world. Uh, I'm going to be honest, the taping went a bit slowly at first, um, and there were some things we will clean up. But again, to have the cast that we had was so special. The gravitas that Jamil brings to his character. One of my favorite scenes is in that church when Bernard Dotson as
yes.
Mr. Elijah X kind of go at it. To me, is very riveting stuff. So incredible.
And you're
Thank
going
you.
to see more of that effect of, as I was saying, Julian's worry when Elijah X says there's going to become a point where Elijah X says, "Who are you to criticize me? Look at your neighborhood. Look at the crime that you have, and look at what we're doing around around our mosque." And Julian gets a little worried. He has the moment of doubt. Like, wait a minute. Am I pursuing the right? What's wrong with this? So we try to do a lot of gray. We try to flip things, as much upside down in the series as we can. And there's a lot of past. Certainly, there's a past with Red Harrison and his relationship with Edna, and his relationship with Mr. Wilt, and that's gonna, come out a lot more. And Marty and Karen and Deb in her pursuit of a political career, but it's not the standard, um, anti-war. It's going to be something different, which surprise people. So we try to look at things and we try to have some humor. And part of the growth of the humor is setting it on a bungalow colony, because you could have the fun part. You have the announcements, you have the nightclub. In episode, we had Rodney Dangerfield at the end of episode 101, played by the incredible Jackie Kusher. I mean, it's just great. But we're going to have, another. I can't say who, but we're going to have another fictional character. I don't know where we're going to find the person to play it, but, but it's going to be someone from the '60s. Russell, don't say anything. That's going to be really, interesting casting. But so that's going to be something that we want to, if not every week, many weeks, to showcase the people who were in the and not just Jewish comics, but Mom's Mabley. I mean, just all different way people. Again, we want to give different voices. I mean, who knows who Mom's Mabley was, unless you're really an historian of, right? I mean, she was incredible, but she's 95% of the people would just stare at you, right? And she was just incredible. So that's who we want to. And you talk about the trends in the '60s. Is you started to see it with movies. You saw it with the Trial of the Chicago Seven, and uh, the one Judas
Judas
and
and
the
the
Black
Black
The Black
Messiah.
Messiah.
It
Messiah.
was a brilliant movie. I saw it twice.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was
Brilliant.
amazing.
Brilliant. Just pissed me off by you just
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. But brilliant. So that was the '60s. So you're seeing we're starting to go back to the night and see what that was about and deal with that. And
Yeah, and it is very fun to reanimate these iconic figures from the 60s and expose their talent and kind of persona to a new audience. Um, that's a fun part for me. Yeah.
yes, and sports figures. We're gonna have some sports figures. We'd have Connie Hawkins, who was a great basketball player who was banned from the NBA for allegations of point shaving, which were not true. Correct, Russell? There
Correct.
was It was not true. He was just banned. And was there racism behind that? Wouldn't surprise us. And again,
Guilt by association. So
yes, yes. I mean, we look at the ABA, which has always been depicted in a comical way, with like Will Ferrell's semi-pro and the showmanship, the red, white, blue ball. But we try to show, well, but why was there an ABA? Why was there a need? It was because the NBA had a stranglehold on basketball. Simple as that. They crushed the American Basketball League in the early '60s. What did it last? 2 seasons or us? Something? 2 seasons, right? And they just wiped it out. Some of the players didn't even get invited. NBA players who went to the ABL were never allowed back in the NBA, but they did not want any competition. And there was also they also had unspoken quotas, racial quotas on the teams. You would deny the hell out of it, but give me a break. And so the ABA had far more percentage of African American players, way more, and it was befitting. Also, the style was the '60s. It was the anti-establishment. It was the run and gun, the shoot, the red, white, and blue basketball. It was all the fun, which the stodgy establishment frowned. So we want to lean into that as well and have fun with the 1960s. Different parts of the 1960s that everyone just sitting around getting high and listening to the Grateful Dead, with all due respect to Russell, who's a deadhead.
We tried to live up to the words of Jerry Garcia, who once described the Dead and what their quest was. Just what he said, it was just to be original and creative, and that's what we're trying to do and be here. Original in the production, the storylines, original in this new development process, all of that. Another storyline that's going to be interesting, I think, will be the relationship between Red and Aaron as we get into more of this entertainment storyline. So we have some, which will be, I think, a lot of fun moments too. But also, it'll be a great mentor-mentee relationship.
Yes,
It's going to be interesting.
because you see the warm side, because Red can be a kind of a forbidding character, but he warms up with Aaron. There's something that strikes him, this little fast talking, usually lying kid, but they have this odd bond. And also Mr. Wilt is going to have an odd bond with Aaron. So, and they're eventually the three of them and Mr. Wilt and Red's prior relationship, it's all going to, wrap. All right, I'm not going to say anymore. I'm getting a look. Don't shut up. Don't let a writer start talking about the storyline. But it is, again, we want to have different kind of relationships shown. And that's really important.
Absolutely. And without giving too much away, with episode 2, what's your favorite thing that you're most looking forward to everybody seeing?
Oh boy, I think I love Red and Aaron. As Russell said, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Because Aaron, as you see in episode 101, is starting to struggle with his, oh, maybe I'm gay. And so who is he going to tell that to?
Right.
A kid in Brooklyn. I mean, really? How many times a day do you want to get beat up? If you, I mean, that's another element of the story that is not often touched upon. I mean, women were, unofficially second-class citizens in the 60s, but to even be gay, heaven forbid you say that, or you had to be really deep in the, deep off the grid. So eventually Aaron's going to have to, oh yeah, maybe. And he's going to need someone to understand. And Red, because of what Red has gone through, is uniquely positioned to understand that. Even though Red is like, gay is maybe not, I don't know about that, but he'll understand the emotions, which is at the end of the day, even if you can't intellectualize something, and as long as you feel it, all we need is
That's what I think is so interesting about the characters and the relationships within this series is that there seems to be an unlikely bond that is formed that you wouldn't normally think, like even between Marty Dent and Reverend Julian Bass, two people come from two totally different walks of life, and here they are forming this long-lasting friendship and this bond. The same thing with Aaron and Red. It's like, what is this older Black man and this young, gay, Brooklyn kid, what on earth would they have in common? And so it's really great that we see these stories fleshed out, because I think even, well, especially today, we've become incredibly tribal. And so it's kind of nice to see an example, even in this fictionalized way of just cultures coming together in unlikely ways.
Yes, we can come together if we just try a little bit. For heaven's sake, it is possible, and that's what we want, to be positive and hopeful.
Yeah, and I don't think we're trying to be preachy about that. I think we're trying to show it by example, and just as the storylines build, that the bond is strong and moves the characters forward and the story forward through these very tumultuous and trying times. There is a part I'm not going to give away, Gary. Don't worry. There's one of the more my favorite parts of 2 has to do with a mobilization of athletes coming together for a game, if you will. And that game is sort of our historic Liberty with a classic and iconic professional game that used to take place every year in the summers. Again, it becomes hard for our characters to find a place for this game to take place, but Jamil will reveal some linguistic dexterity and
Yes.
some interesting knowledge of language, and that he garnered from his just walking the streets of Brooklyn.
Yes.
I didn't
Well,
get it right, did I?
You did that great.
yes, very mysterious. Well, gentlemen, we're almost out of time. Any last words for either that any of you want to say before I let you go?
No, I'm gonna let Jamil. I'm gonna go. He's the Reverend. I'm gonna let him say something.
Oh, no, I don't have anything to say other
Nothing left?
than just tune in to 102. It's going to be a fun one, as Dave already mentioned. So yeah, looking forward to it.
For me, last words, I'll reiterate our channel name. It's Joyland, a new series. Episode 101 is currently online, and come April, we will have episode 102 there on our channel, Joyland, a new series.
And their
Wonderful.
last words are my last words.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for being on, and I can't wait to come back next month and talk about episode 102.
Yes, terrific. Thank you, Sammy.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great. Appreciate it.